Zohran Mamdani is not just ideologically crazy and, possessed or whatever, however you want to describe, propagator of the communist ideology. When it comes to crime in New York City, I mean, he said that prisons don't work, that prisons don't make us safer, that policing doesn't make us any safer. I think we have that video if we can show that.
The way that prisons are set up in our society, I would argue that they do not work. They do not make us safer. The instinct is to just take that person, the source of that harm, the source of that issue, and then just throw them away. Put them in a cage and throw away the key.
Mm.
That doesn't address the reason why that harm was created in the first place. A lot of times, people who create trauma for others are those who themselves went through trauma earlier in their own lives.
Right.
And I bring all of this up to say that, again, like when we talk about policing, I don't think the system actually makes us safer. I think what it does is it just removes problems out of view.
So it doesn't make us safer. Prisons don't make us safer. So putting a murderer in prison doesn't make the city safer. Putting somebody who is a repeat offender in behind bars doesn't make people safer. The victims of these crimes aren't safer with the criminal incarcerated. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. It's ideological. It's ideological, right? And Zohran, by the way, proves that point because there's another video which I want to roll here in a second, in which he said, "What purpose do prisons serve besides making people feel good?" And I assume he's talking about the people putting criminals in prison, as if that's something that politicians enjoy doing. Take a look.
Thank you. Are prisons obsolete?
Whew. Coming through with the quotes, coming through with the titles of the books. I have to read that, actually. I haven't read that as yet. But I think that, frankly, I mean, what purpose do they serve? Right? I think we have to ask ourselves that, which is that, I think a lot of people who defend the carceral state, they defend the idea of it and the way it makes them feel.
It's wild.
What purpose do they serve? I don't know. The recidivism rate, and I looked this up before we came on the show, the recidivism rate ranges anywhere from, the recidivism rate, by the way, is the percentage of people who have been incarcerated, criminals who've been convicted and put behind bars, who after they've served their sentence go on to commit crimes again. The recidivism rate is anywhere between 39% and 83%, and it depends on whether you're talking about rearrest or reincarceration. So 83% is actually like the most consistent number of how often people who have been incarcerated once they're released get arrested again. 83% of the time. So what purpose do prisons serve? I don't know, to keep the murderer from murdering someone else?